we're getting there. You can see that this is a really darkly toned edge to match the tops. The tops are sort of a black. The legs are also kind of a black, but it is a pigmented black. It's not a black lacquer. It's really just a dark toner finish. But even with a paper towel, you can see it wants to just kind of come off pretty easily. That's the nice thing. It just dissolves it. And so all you're trying to do is just release it from the surface carefully. And I'm gonna do this one last side now. And I'm gonna use the putty knife method because I think that's faster. And so speed is not always the best thing in restoration. Sometimes you wanna use caution and be careful. I mean, you always wanna use caution and be careful, but sometimes you need to do the slower way for the sake of a better outcome. But in some cases, you can find a way that is faster. So I'm gonna use the putty knife and I'm just gonna go right through the middle. I'm gonna go all the way to the end. Like that. Now I'll just wipe it on some paper towel. And again, you wanna keep your putty knife flat. You don't want to gouge the wood. You could use a wider putty knife. That is an option. I'm just using this one because sometimes wider putty knives can not ride a surface evenly. If this has a slight bow to it and you have a big wide knife, sometimes you'll get the corners hitting more than the main part of the putty knife. So I like to use a smaller blade usually. Also be aware, I see some of you, some of the users of QCS are stripping items in their garage space, in your garage space or shop space, and you have very nicely painted epoxy floors and such. Be aware that if QCS is dripping like it's dripping on me right now, that you may find that you have an area of your floor that no longer looks as pretty as it did when you started. So be aware of that. Put something down like a drop cloth or some cardboard or something, because you would hate to finish a successful stripping project to find out that you've also stripped your floors. Also goes for my Brooklyn friends and city friends who strip in their apartments when their landlords aren't looking. It's also something you want to consider. Unless eventually stripping your floors is a goal, then have at ya. Okay, that is the majority of it. I'm just gonna get my bottle again and just sort of re-wet the surface for troubled areas. Let that work. Put some on my steel wool again. And now I'm gonna come in here and just spot treat all the surfaces. That's just gonna get everywhere where the putty knife missed. Again, watch out for these corners and edges. You don't wanna go and grab a piece of the veneer and rip it off. Not that it can't be fixed later, but who wants more work? Not me. I want it to be easy as much as possible. So, cautious. There's that half done. I'm just gonna grab some paper towel, excuse me. Come from this side. Look at that, nice and clean. Is it clean enough? Not yet. We're gonna go over and give it a thorough final cleaning, but there we go, it's coming along nicely. Just grab my steel wool here. Sorry, come from this side again. Now this kind of finish you'll find primarily you'll find it a lot on mid-century furniture. A lot of Lane Acclaim. Again, for mid-century folks, you'll know some of these names, but Lane Acclaim, Paul McCobb usually, would use a lot of this type of finish. George Nelson, I mean, a lot of the vintage furniture that had a lacquer was a nitrous cellulose lacquer. It was not the catalyzed lacquers we have today, which are much more durable, but also much harder to remove. That's why we do call QCS a vintage finish remover, because on the newer finishes, they are meant to be sort of chemical resistant and bomb proof for our new way of life, where we kind of abuse things a little bit more than we probably should when it comes to furniture and things in our home. So it removes this really well, but if you were to use it on a newer piece, you might struggle a little bit because they are it's a chemical difference. It's a chemistry thing. So this finish is perfect for coming off with QCS, where a catalyzed lacquer may not come off as nicely. So there you go, it's looking good. All right guys, so just to finish up the outside, because pretty much it's all done, we're gonna flip it and I'm gonna do the legs next, which do come off. You could actually take them off and do them separately, but we're just gonna do them on the piece. I'm just gonna take some of the QCS, some clean, just spray some onto a cloth, and now I'm just gonna do a wipe down. This is what we refer to as sort of that final afterwash. You can see how clean it is already. Like, we've already gotten it pretty clean, but I'm just gonna do one final wipe down to just grab any other residue. And I'll show you on the cloth how little color there is, and that's how you know that you've gotten off the residue of the finish, and the sanding would take it from there. But you can see here, there's very little color, and that's what you want to see. You don't want to see this to be black. You don't want it to look like that. You know, even that's getting closer, but you want it to be where you can almost see that there's very little left. Now you're gonna let this dry, and that is going to be, that's gonna be it. After that, you let it dry, and I would say give it 24 hours, maybe more. You don't wanna rush finishing it. We've had a couple people who, they dive right into finishing it same day. Not a good idea. You need to let this dry out and really, get to where you can build on it. If it's still got moisture in the wood, any finish or paint is not gonna attach to it as well. So there you go. All right, so this is the bottom of this media cabinet coffee table. These are the legs. These are very kind of iconic George Nelson legs, and we're gonna take and strip these now. And these are sometimes black lacquer, other times they're like a pigmented, like they're dyed and then finished. So we'll see what these end up like. If they lighten up a lot, that means it was probably a black lacquer over the raw wood. If it was a dye, you'll see that the wood will remain dark. You can see that there's color of the wood showing through, but those are also really big gouges, so it could be that it just chipped below stain. So we'll find out. I'm just gonna go ahead and coat these, and we'll see where we go with it. But it should be the same finish that was on the sides, so we're just gonna do the tops here. All right, we're gonna let those just set for a bit, and then we'll go to recoating. I'm getting low on my bottle. Again, from the beginning, this is one bottle. We poured a good amount into the cup to dip in, and we still have some of that, and we're down to the very end here. So at the end, sometimes it gets hard to get it to spray because you have so little. If you're tipping it, you're not catching it. So we'll spray it a little bit more, and then we'll probably just dump this into the dipping cup and just do scrubbing from there on out. But let's let this set up, and we'll go from there.